Welcome all of you fellow arcanists out there to the Frith Guild podcast, where we explore an amazing world full of mystical creatures and their partners. Our hosts are Eric Smith and Scott Wareham, and they'll be your guides along this journey through Plague and Skyships. So grab your Eldrin, strap on your swords, and get ready to defend the innocent from evil. Throughout this series, if you have not caught up to the chapters being discussed today, we urge you to hit the pause button, grab your copy of this wonderful book, and catch up. We'll be here when you get back. During their approach to the Lightning Straits, Volke finds that he is beginning to have dark fantasies about merger. He worries that he may be succumbing to the arcane plague. Not a good thing when his life is dependent upon pirates. But before we return to the story, a piece of advice from the series. Karna once said to Volke,
"Everyone has dark urges. Why do some people pretend otherwise?"
To which Volke replies,
"The night sky might be black, but that doesn't mean you should ignore the stars."
He further explains,
I liked reading tales of swashbuckling arcanists when I was younger. Their stories of bravery and kindness are like the navigational stars, a guiding presence in the blackness of night. I might never be exactly like them, but as long as I want to be, then it's easier to overcome moments of darkness. I'm not pretending. I'm working towards a goal I haven't reached yet. I'm following the stars.
So with that, let's get into chapters 41 through 45 of Plague Arcanist.
Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
And I'm co-host Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapters 41 through 45 of Plague Arcanist, the fourth book in Chamois Stovall's Frith Chronicles series. Before we get into the show, we do want to thank everybody for listening, and we do really appreciate it. If you can show us some love by liking, subscribing, sharing, or commenting on any platform that you're listening to or watching this on, we do appreciate it. You can also go into the Capital Station Discord server, where there's always plenty of conversation to go around, along with a new channel for fan-made creatures as well. With that, we'll get to chapter 41, Arrival.
We open up with some pretty big news. So we do find out that Second Ascension did create the plague. The Autarch is their leader, and Thiessen is connected and working closely with them. Adelgis obviously is pretty conflicted about what to do with the info. It is his dad, and he is concerned about how he's going to handle it. Adelgis is pretty conflicted about what to do with the info. Volke ends up waking up next to Karna. Karna answers his earlier question about a trial of worth, and she told the mother of shapeshifters that she was most afraid of being alone. So we kind of get this two paths. If you're talking with the mother of shapeshifters for the trial of worth, you can either get a mimic by not being afraid of anything, or a doppelganger by being most afraid of being alone. Moss also gave some pretty important information. She said that she would reach true form once she fully understands human nature. So a difficult and pretty vague task, but at least she knows what she's working towards. Volke does comment that she plays the villains better. She's better as Calisto, as Thiessen, even playing as our master arcanist, Jell. So she's a lot more comfortable in that villain role. Volke does want to go to see Calisto. He wants to talk to him, essentially find out what he knows. Calisto, working with Thiessen and the Second Ascension in some regards, but trying to figure out how involved he really is. Calisto is happily spouting his nightmare boots, nice and shiny.
Freaking A, Jose.
I know. And we do find out that part of the contract with Calisto was that he wasn't supposed to engage Volke in conversation, but he is willing to exchange information for a price. So as long as Volke starts the conversation, he's willing to trade some information back and forth. And very specifically, he wants to know about Illia. We find out that he really needed her eye to get Helion's true form.
When Volke said Illia's name, just as like, don't ever talk about her. And Callisto's like, oh, her name's Illia. Like, dang it. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it kind of depends on the situation, how you look at it. Volke does draw retribution, and he loses his shit. Luther ends up merging with Volke, though, to kind of get him to calm down and talk to him in a calming manner. Again, not sure if this is the plague that's drawing the tension with Volke, but I think this is probably would have been a very normal reaction for Volk, whether the plague was there or not for him. Luther got Volk to basically walk away and be the beggar man and all that good stuff, because obviously Volk's not going to give up any information about Illia other than her name, apparently. So he starts to walk away, and this is one of those like chef kiss moments of Shammy. She doesn't do the cliche like, oh, you know. Calisto yells after Volk and like, this is where you get mad and try to avenge your friend and tell me I'll never hurt Illia again and go to strike me, and that's what you're gonna do.
He breaks the cliche.
And like, I know Volk wanted to do it so badly, but dang it, he doesn't.
After this pretty heated conversation, luckily they do end up landing at the site, so no more traveling on Callisto's ship.
Maybe it's just them being on the ship too long with each other, you know?
Stuck in the same confined spaces.
I mean, Volk was used to all this freedom with in Colosseum, where he got to walk around after dark, do his own thing, you know? In chapter 42, the excavation site, Volk and the gang disembark from the Third Abyss, and everybody is like super excited to kick them the hell off the ship. Well, everybody being like Spider. She's really like the only person, because the rest of the crew loves Volk. Like, they think he's the best thing since sliced bread. Now, they do also say, or at least Spider says, that they are going to be picking somebody else up, and that they didn't make this whole trip all the way out past the Lightning Straits just for Volk. They end up coming to a town that looks like it's been on fire and it's been decrepit and run down and destroyed. And this is where we believe that Zelfrey and Callisto actually grew up at, and there was their hometown. It's sad to see it in ruin, but the other sad part is it is completely and totally overrun by plague-ridden creatures. And we're talking grifter crows, we're talking all the sea creatures. Literally, if there is an Eldrin on this side of the strait, it's probably infected with the plague. So as they're walking, they kind of determine that there's like an aura that's keeping everybody at bay. And Fane just kind of like whips around with a knife ready to go and points it at this random person that's walking behind them. And I love the interaction of just, who are you? And it's the guy with the really small top hat. He's just like, oh, I'm Karna's doppelganger. Nice to meet you guys.
You met me before in about 12 different forms.
Right. You don't recognize me because I've always just integrated with somebody else. So, and they're like, okay, well, what's your name? And this is where it's very fun interaction, because they keep her doppelganger and Karna are just like having this silent conversation between the two of them, and they finally are just like, it's Car. Yeah, it's Car. Like,
and it makes me wonder, if that's the name they agreed on, like, what's the real name if it's not it? Or does the doppelganger just not have a name? And
like, what would she call her doppelganger outside? Like, when she's alone in her quarters with her doppelganger, not entertaining guests.
I don't know. It's strange, but it definitely seemed like they were trying to figure out a name on the spot. Like, oh, we forgot we didn't really have one of these before.
Adelgis has a comment to make that he actually is not able to read minds since they have stepped off the ship. And again, this is where they lead to believe that there's an aura in place preventing not only Adelgis from not being able to read minds, but also keeping all of the plague-ridden creatures at bay, because again, there's all of the bird Arcanists or bird Eldrin that could just very easily go over and infect Karna and Adelgis, but they don't even move to a try. So Karna does actually take this opportunity that Moonbeam doesn't have the ability to read her mind. So she asks Moonbeam who his perfect companion is. And just as awkwardly as we could expect from Moonbeam, he says his sister. and I could hear the record scratching, like stopping, like, wait, what? And he has to like backstep real quick, like, whoa. I wanted to say that Addie would be her personality and everything is what I would like in a companion, but obviously not Addie or my sister. I don't want to upset Volk by saying Addie, so I said my sister, but I promise I'm not like that, okay?
He's really trying to backpedal, and he even comes up with, ever since the leech, he doesn't really even seek out companionship. He kind of wants to just try and heal on his own. So he's been even more of an avoidant than he was, prior to the leech.
That'd be a really awkward conversation to have of like, oh yeah, I hosted a leech for several years of my life. So as they're talking about this, there's a woman that actually arrives on a Kieran, and my first thought went to, I wonder if this is another one of Thiesen's mistresses, since it seems like he's got his new Nora person, he's got his Elias person, so
he likes Minerva owls though, so
yeah, that's a good point.
Kieran just won't do it. Doesn't fit his type.
I mean, she could have been a Minerva owl Arcanist with the Kieran.
She could.
I wonder if she would be his favorite.
Oh yes,
she could empower. Oh Lord.
Yep, he's getting empowered. That's for sure.
Well, we do kind of figure out that her name is Orwin, and unfortunately for Thiesen, Orwin is pretty much like a space cadet, so I don't think she could make it as a Minerva Owl Arcanist. She kind of, I hate to use the word ditzy, but she just kind of seems like she's out in left field a lot.
She's playing on a different court than the rest of everyone else.
That's a good way to put it. Everybody's playing baseball and she's over playing basketball. Like,
yes,
we do actually learn the Kieran's name, which is Lith, and she just kind of like, yeah, we're expecting you to come on. You're just gonna follow me now. So they finish walking to the rest of the way, and they're getting basically closer and closer to these bonfires that are billowing smoke. They finally get to the excavation site, and there's actually 4 bonfires lit. And it's basically described as a massive rectangular excavation site. I'm thinking like Indiana Jones level, just workers everywhere. As Volke is looking around, he notices the car has disappeared, but they've been passed by several people. So who knows who Car is or where Car is now or what he's doing. I'm curious. I'm sorry to sidetrack here. I wonder if Car doesn't have an official name because like whatever person he's turning into is his name. Like that's who he is during that time.
It's very possible. He just goes by whatever he happens to be in the form of. So
it was just easier for him, so he doesn't ever like slip up and like not pay like not alert to his name. She takes Vulcan Gang to Thiesen, who is in the warehouse, and Thiesen is not happy at all to see Adelgis. Thiesen did seem kind of relieved that Adelgis had the ability to deduce his whereabouts, even though, again, Thiesen doesn't want him to be there, or particularly want him to be there. But Thiesen does have a cure to the plague.
He does also make this comment that he's disappointed why Adelgis showed up. He could have showed up for the power of magic or searching some greater selfish goal, but the fact that he's doing it to help his friend is apparently not a good reason for Thiesen why you should be doing something. And that does bring us to chapter 43, the cure to the arcane plague. So Thiesen, surprise, surprise, doesn't even remember who Volke is. He continues to be just disappointed and perplexed at what Adelgis was doing if he wasn't doing it for personal gain.
I mean, if Thiessen didn't just leave Adelgis to die after extracting the leech, Volke wouldn't have had to find a cure. Adelgis wouldn't owe Volke a favor. Like, this is all Thiessen's fault.
It really is when it comes down to it. He's the one that put the leech there in the first place. So
Exactly. Frickin' dick.
Yeah. We do also find out that the excavation site is working on unearthing the core of the Apoc dragon, so the 13th god creature. Thiessen is harvesting the bones, likely going to use them for artifact creation, and we do find out that the decay dust did have that Apoc dragon imbued in it, so we do get to see some of the power that the dragon has. Adelgis calls Thiessen out on the Grotto Labyrinth. I'm sure he really feels like, oh, I'm standing up to the man right now. I'm telling him everything he did wrong. Thiessen, again, doesn't really care. He saw the personal gain for it, so ends justify the means in his eyes.
Hey, at least Adelgis had the pair to stand up to his dad. Kudos to him. And
yeah, that's a big step.
Like, oh, yeah. I'm very happy that Adelgis stepped up to his dad and actually tried to defend himself and all that and stand up to him. So good job for you, Adelgis.
Thiessen does confirm that he is part of the Second Ascension and that they are really trying to usher in a new age of magic to have the god creatures spawn again. Adelgis brings up, hey, we've kind of overthrown like a few different countries, thrown them into turmoil because of this, and Thiessen says, he's okay with that because he wasn't directly involved with that, so that doesn't really matter.
I'm so thankful that Shammy did not use the whole the cliche of gotta break some eggs to make an omelet. Thank you so much.
There were a few ones that could have been thrown in there, but yes, he's saved us the horror.
Hats off to you.
Volke, rightfully so, wants to fight Thiessen, but Luther reminds him, hey, we need the cure. You can't really kill that dude. Thiessen does agree that he has the cure. He's willing to give it to Volke. All he wants is a vial of blood. Apparently, Thiessen is also a vampire.
I wonder why specifically he wants Volke's. I know Thiessen says basically what's another vial of blood for the arcane plague, but why Volke's blood?
I was curious as well because I thought about it. The first thought was, oh, he wants blood from somebody who has the plague, but he can get plenty of that from everybody else that's roaming around the island. So I don't know what would make Volke's special compared to Joe Schmo.
I wonder, maybe is it because he's second bonded? That's unique.
It's possible.
That's kind of the only thing I can think of other than him having a nightmare. That's kind of the only two things I can think of that would make Volke special and why he would specifically want a vial of Volke's blood.
It's possible he can imbue something with it. I don't exactly know how that would work, but it's what he uses all the other parts for, so very curious. Thiessen does say that the cure to the arcane plague is with the abyssal leech. It has the ability to essentially manipulate magic. Volke is against this process, but it is really their only option. So Adelgis puts Volke to sleep and essentially takes it into his own hands and says, yeah, we're going through with this. While Volke's asleep, we do go into another dream of Zalfri's. He has a Kieran Full with him. Unfortunately, Kieran can only speak with their Arcanist, and they do so telepathically. So they know who they'll bond with essentially from the moment they're born, and will only talk to telepathically that person. Other than that, they're completely silent. So very hard to gain any information from them. We also find out that their real power, and really the reason that everybody is so enthralled with them, is they allow the Arcanist to bond with a second creature, and then they enhance that creature's magic. So little extra empowering on top. Unfortunately, because of this, they're often hunted for trinkets, but the trinkets never actually reproduce that magical power. And we also find out that there is such a thing as a gold Kieran, which is essentially a Kieran on steroids that can allow the Arcanist to bond with multiple other creatures. So not just one other Eldrin, but multiple, and then empowers all of those Eldrin as well. We also get some reports that the plague is pretty much being ignored. People don't understand how serious it is, so nobody's really going to any length to stop it. And Zelfrey is going to go confront the Marshal.
He also makes a comment about using his Chimera aura, which we're definitely excited to see what that's about. In chapter 44, Wolves Live Hard Lives, we pick back up in the middle of this dream, and Zelfrey is in the Marshal's office on the Marshal's ship, and Zelfrey made a comment about killing the Marshal will be easy. It's the Typhoon Dragon that you kind of have to worry about. Zelfrey has a dagger that is laced with Manicore Venom, and it's a pretty solid move on that part. So that way he can take all of the Marshal's powers away from him as soon as he stabs him. The second the Marshal walks in, Zelfrey goes in for a gut shot, but because the Marshal is so jacked up on not only the Typhoon Dragon, but he's got a Dread form Typhoon Dragon, he's just roided out and starts wailing on Zelfrey. Zelfrey does get in with a second one, but this and that's kind of like where the plan doesn't start. It doesn't go well. Zelfrey did not plan on getting his ass kicked by the Marshal. Volke makes an observation that Zelfrey never hesitated. How about that?
The thing he's been harping on.
It's almost like it's a lesson that Zelfrey learned a very long time ago and is trying to pass along to Volke about not hesitating. So Zelfrey ends up defeating the Marshal. And again, we realize that we killed the Marshal. Now we have to take out the Typhoon Dragon. That is a Dread form. Oh, joy. Thankfully, Linus was on the ship. Calisto was on the ship with Zelfrey, with Hellion, so that they can kind of fly out of the way. They have the Red Falcon standing by off out of the area. And we just have this epic battle between the Typhoon Dragon and pretty much the rest of the Frith Guild plus Calisto. And reading this over, this is just straight nightmare fuel of a Typhoon Dragon because it has crab claws coming off of its shoulders, and it's got a total of 4 of them. They're all different sizes. They're not symmetrical in any manner, like rhyme or reason. Like, this thing is just horrid. I believe it's one eye's missing. Like, just, bleh. Just
it's straight
bleh.
Boss battle form. It truly has that like end of game boss battle feel to it.
Yeah, like this is the made it through. This is the last boss to beat the game. Zelfrey has to create his aura, but he creates it incorrectly and just pushes it out instead of letting it overflow naturally. This does create the aura, and he does end up giving the Chimera the body of the Typhoon Dragon, which is cool. And Traces actually does end up getting a Manticore head, a Leviathan head, and an Atlas turtle head, which I totally thought that the Chimera is only 3, but maybe it's just whatever's there. So it could maybe have like 10 heads. Who knows? Traces starts attacking the Typhoon Dragon. She does get bit a couple times, and Volke, watching through Zelfrey's eyes, got really concerned and is like, well, wait a minute, Traces isn't infected. She does not get infected because of the Manticore head that she has. And she goes and just destroys this Typhoon Dragon. And this is just like a Titan battle going on in the sea. So after Traces takes out the Typhoon Dragon, Zelfrey is actually unable to turn off the aura because of everything that was going on, and he's in such pain. Basically, the aura is manifesting itself and pretty much stuck. Calisto, with his quick thinking, brings Hellion over and has Hellion sting Zelfrey and causes the aura to stop. This is one of the coolest things that we've seen Calisto do, and as far as these dreams go, to have that thought of, oh, he's not able to stop it, let me stop his magic with mine. And again, it's so weird to see Calisto in a friendly manner. He's not just trying to kill somebody or do something, steal somebody's eyeball or whatever the case is. He's actually helping somebody.
Yeah, it's some quick thinking on his end.
Around the area, the Faceless becomes very well known that he killed the Southern Marshal, and the bounty on the Faceless's head just skyrockets. So Zelfrey's pretty much like, hope to God nobody ever figures out that I'm the Faceless, because we are going to have a problem. Maybe this is why Jevil wants Zelfrey so bad.
It probably is. I'm sure Jevil knows of the rumors, and I don't know if the bounty is still there, but at least the recognition of I took out the Faceless.
So Zelfrey and Calisto go on some R&R. They head over to Port Crown because no best place to go. Calisto actually commissions somebody in Port Crown to have his ship built out of the ghostwood that's in the area. And like two awesome people, best friends, they go out and get matching dragon tattoos. It took me until this reread and to literally read this part where they got matching dragon tattoos for it to dawn on me that they got matching dragon tattoos because they took out the Typhoon Dragon.
I didn't realize it the first time either. It wasn't, I got it the second time I was going through. I was like, wait, it's for the Typhoon Dragon.
Like, oh. So we do see a scene where Calisto and Zelfrey are talking on the ship, the half-built ship for Calisto. Calisto is very adamant about taking down Redbeard. And Zelfrey is very adamant about taking care of the Blood Plague. Zelfrey is basically saying, your quarrel with Redbeard is whatever. We need to take care of the bigger alligator in the room, okay? This is where there's a huge shift between Calisto and Zelfrey. And Calisto kind of gets you in the feels a little bit with this. Because he's like, look, I have done everything you've ever asked of me. I've been, the person that has introduced you. You wanted to get out of our hometown. I got you out of our hometown. You wanted to become an Arcanist. I got you to become an Arcanist. You wanted to take down the Marshal of the Southern Seas. I got you to take down the Marshal of the Southern Seas. What have I asked from you to do in return? And this is one of those moments just like, oh my gosh, he's right. Like, Zelfrey has been pretty much just using Calisto as a stepping tool instead of as a friend lately.
It also feels like, how long realistically is it going to take to hunt down Redbeard? It seems like, this is something you get it over quickly, and then you can go take on the Blood Plague together. I'm with you. It felt like Zelfrey was pretty selfish in the moment.
And like, outside of having the knowledge of what Calisto did and or is going to do in the future, you want to give him some sympathy because, again, it's starting to make a lot more sense as far as to why this happened. So realistically, Calisto just wants to take out one really, really horrible person that absolutely deserves to not be walking around. And again, you want to feel for Zelfrey because he's trying to take care of the plague. Looking big picture here, but dang it, it's a side quest, okay? It's really quick and easy. Just take care of the side quest.
And it gets Calisto on your team. Like, theoretically, if you do take down Redbeard, you can go after the plague with Calisto. I'd rather have Callisto's help than I would, go after who's ever created the plague, who's obviously going to be stronger than the Marshal. And now you don't have Calisto by your side.
This is where Calisto just snaps, and I completely believe that this is pretty much the end of, or the start of the end for Calisto, the way that the direction he goes with as far as becoming the Dread Pirate and doing everything he does. He's pretty much at a point of he doesn't give a crap about anybody. He's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to be employed by whoever he wants to be employed by. It's only going to benefit him now. Calisto does tell Zelfrey to get the heck off his ship, or he's going to stab Zelfrey again. So basically, Calisto tells Zelfrey the next time that they meet that they're no longer friends, but they're enemies. And Volke ends up being shaken awake out of Adelgis's forced sleep. And who is it that he gets to see as soon as he wakes up? None other than Calisto.
From dreams to reality. That does bring us to chapter 45, which is the leader of the Second Ascension. They are stuck in a tiny room. Spider is there with Calisto, and Spider wants Volke's equipment. Luckily, Thiessen comes in and essentially says that Volke is off, well, literally on the table, but his stuff is off the table. It's not available as a bounty.
Calisto ends up breaking something or knocking something off of a table. And Thiessen calls Calisto a Lumox, which the minute I read that word, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to look that up because no clue what that would be.
Lummox, noun, a clumsy, stupid person.
And of course, Thiessen, of all people, would call him a Lumox.
We also find out that the Mother of Shapeshifters is there as well, and Thiessen wants to create items out of it. Again, a lot of really strong magics there. It is the one thing that is also off the table, so Calisto wanted to take Mother of Shapeshifters as his prize, his payment, but he'll have to find something else. Thiessen ends up touching Spider. Calisto backs her up, essentially says that if he touches her again, he's going to have to deal with Calisto, no matter who he is or what previous agreement they had. We also find out that Calisto retrieved a piece of the World Serpent for the Autarch, but the piece that they still need is the Jade Runestone. Calisto also wants Volke as payment for his deeds, but Thiessen says no to this. Calisto probably wanted him to lure Illia. He also said Luther wasn't an option as well, so Callisto's still really trying to hunt down Illia and knowing that they're possible to use as bait.
I feel like Calisto should have been like, okay, what can I have in here? You told me I could get a payment of something. Tell me what is allowed to be taken.
I know. He feels like a kid running around. Bunch of 100 tickets. What can I buy? This room, and I can only imagine how cramped this room is starting to get as more and more people come in. We do see Akiva, who's the King Basilisk Arcanist, and Orwin walks in as well. There's also a lot of plague-ridden Arcanists coming in as well. We do see Rise, who is the Rizzle Arcanist, the Dreadform Rizzle meatbag.
His eyes are trying to escape his face.
He looks like he's plague-ridden. With him, he does also bring the Golden Kieran Arcanist, who's the Autarch. And the Autarch does have, on both of his shoulders, potential spaces for God creatures Arcanist marks to appear. So we get the feeling that the plan is that the Autarch with his Golden Kieran would be able to bond with multiple god creatures and then Super Saiyan to the max. They give him this powerful armor made from the Apoc dragon. So again, they're really, really amping up for the Autarch. And we do find out that there's 6 nation rulers that have all been assassinated to throw more and more of the world into chaos.
I think he also does this to set up basically whenever he bonds with the World Serpent, that they would be loyal to him, so that way he can shape their area, their country, their land, whatever, to suit them, to make them better, they prosper better. And so that way more people will fall under his control.
Yeah, it puts him in prime position to take over the world.
He actually seems like he could do it instead of just like every other cartoon villain or whatever. Like, I'm going to take over the world. And you're just like, yeah, there's how. He's like, he's got a plan figured out.
He does, and it's well thought out. So very, very concerning. And that does bring us to the end of chapter 45. So we'll move on with the bestiary. The first one we're going to go over is the Kirin. So mythology, they are based on Kirin, but it's spelled a little different, spelled with a Q from Chinese mythology. And in those myths, they appeared before legendary emperors. And if you see one, you're destined for greatness. They're also, little chamois fact, favorite mythical creature of all time, so they had to be part of this world. Their trial of worth, they don't have one in the same sense as other creatures. They know who they're going to bond with, so there's no real trial that needs to take place. They always know that they'll bond with somebody of great destiny, and they endlessly seek this person out. And as soon as they see them, they know who will be and know that they'll bond immediately. They are tier 1, so on their own, fairly weak. They are also progeny, so they reproduce like normal horses, but the majority of time their foals are stillborns. And because of their delicate bodies and being so fragile, they really have to be cared for a lot when they are pregnant as well as when they are young Kirin. They evoke visions, so they can evoke visions of future events. These appear like a mist, and if you inhale this mist, it gives you visions of possible different ways that the future could play out. Again, they're tier 1, so they're not very strong, so you really do have to be a master arcanist to even begin to take advantage of the evocation. Their manipulation is destiny, so the Eldrin, the Kirin specifically, can subtly alter chance-related events. So if you think dice, card games, more often than not, things are going to go their way. Their augmentation is empowerment. So again, they augment the Kirin themselves, augment other mythical creatures and empower their magic. So make them almost twice as potent as they were before. They remove a lot of the limitations that the Arcanists had previously. They can't augment themselves, but it does enhance the effect of any creature, mythical creature that the Arcanist is also bonded with. So we can see, if you were also bonded with a god creature, you would have even stronger god creature magic.
Super Saiyan.
That they really feel like it. For passive abilities, they can tell if a person has a significant destiny. They don't know what that is. They just can tell they are going to have a significant impact. Additionally, they allow their Arcanists to bond with an additional creature without the risk of dying. And they're also immune from having their souls torn from their body or to being overexposed to raw magic. Their aura is the signs, so a little different between the Silver Kirin and the Gold Kirin. We're going to focus on the Silver Kirin. When they create their aura, they flood the nearby area with destiny magic. So the Arcanist is given the ability to see what the correct path for immediate actions is. So if you enter a bakery, you'll get whispers from the magic that the glazed donuts taste the best. Probably not the most useful example in this case, but definitely a good one. They can also hear specifically, if you're in battle, this is the action your foe is likely to take, so you can counter it. It is very strange because that's not always a happy path to take. So there's an example where, hey, if an avalanche is hurtling towards the Arcanist, even with the aura, the best option may be a quick death rather than a slow and painful one. So it's not always a good option. It just tells them, hey, this is what the probable best option is. As we can see, the Kirin themselves, not super powerful, but the way that they empower their Arcanist allows them to become much more powerful than they normally would.
And with that concludes this week's episode of chapters 41 through 45. And next week, we are going to be doing our last section of Plague Arcanist. We're doing 46 through 50. And then after that, we will have the episode of the tabletop game that Zerza, or his name is Chad, sits down and talks with us about his tabletop game for the Frith Chronicles and his ideas on that, Shammy's thoughts on it. In, I believe, a week or two from the week or two from the airing of this episode in particular, Time Marked Warlock will be released for audiobook and in the actual book itself. If you are an ARC member or if you order directly from Shammy, she has some absolutely amazing looking metal bookmarks that she will send to you along with her really, really cool pillar quote boxes. So there's that. And if you want to check out her other works, she's got plenty of other things along with the Frith Chronicles, not even just within the series of this one, but the Nexus games, Half-Life, Empire, Star Mark, pretty much any genre you want as far as fantasy goes. She does kind of write a little bit of.
Eric, Scott, and I want to thank everyone for listening today. We post a new episode every Wednesday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and 8 Pacific Standard Time. We are on all podcasting platforms and are also on YouTube as well for video. After the additional episode airs, we post chapter-by-chapter videos every day in a smaller, easier-to-digest format. We do want to give a special shout-out to the final member of our team, Dan Mackison, one of the admins for the Frith Chronicles Wiki, link listed below, and doing his best to keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at frithguildpod@gmail.com or on Facebook or any other social media by searching for Frith Guild Podcast. Just to remind everybody, we have links to everything in the description below on both the podcast and YouTube. Scott, do you have anything else you want to add this week?
It's very close to finishing the 4th book. It's crazy how fast it goes through.
Oh my goodness! And we would be halfway through the series at the end of this one, so we're coming up on 8 months of recording.
Jeez.
And we're about halfway through the series, so we do appreciate everybody for listening on, and we look forward to hearing from you next week. Thank you. Welcome back to the Frith Guild Podcast. I'm your host, Eric. And today we'll be going over chapters 41 through... That was rude.